Jeff, welcome to D1.extra. I appreciate you taking some time with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, I want to talk about something I saw during the spring games that was a lot of fun. And it comes out of UCF, who I feel like always has a lot of fun and does outside of the box kind of things. And that was having QR codes on the back of their player jerseys. And I hear that you all had something to do with sort of the tech side of that and where those QR codes went. So, I'd love to hear a little more about how that idea sort of came about.
Yeah, so it's funny, and to be fair, I'm not sure how much we had to do with it. I like to think we had some of the inspiration behind it, and I'll dive into that. Um, QR codes are something obviously been around a long, long time, and honestly, I think QR codes, if you look it up, have been around since the '90s. And they got kind of this with the web in around 2010 or so, became really popular, and then kind of died. Right, just kind of went away. We didn't see it as much. They've always been there, and certainly COVID had a bit of a resurgence with them. And but then I think it was really Coinbase in the Super Bowl that got everyone like, "Whoa!" Right? Who spends $7 million on a Super Bowl ad that just has a QR code bouncing
Right.
around, right? And it was Coinbase, and you could either look at that as like, what a waste of money, or genius. Now I happen, I think, go out on Twitter, who now I think Elon Musk owns that tweet, but cool. But went out on Twitter at the Super Bowl and said like, "Wow, this is genius! Like, what a great marketing!" Because so many of us grabbed our phones and pointed at it. And so to me, that was like the moment that really brought everybody's mind back to what can you QR codes do for us. And so at Sidearm, while we've had QR codes integrated into our platform for a decade.
Mhm.
You can generate a QR code for a story or a player or a schedule or really any piece of content. What we did is said, hey, let's tailor these QR codes. So rather than just being black and white, make it where so any QR code has the team logo in the middle and is branded with the team colors.
Mhm.
And so we did that. We did a story on it, kind of pushed it out to all of our schools. And then shortly thereafter, UCF with their spring game came out and put those QR codes on the back of the jersey. And I'm like, this is fantastic, right? This makes so much sense. And look, when I think about it, uh, in a day with NIL and with the branding of student athletes,
Mhm.
one way you could say is, hey, go to looking this go to ucfknights.com/sports/football/roster/Jalen Robinson/13287, or just take a picture of this and end up at the same spot.
Right.
And so it really was just a great thing that they did to highlight their student athletes.
Okay, so if I was there with my phone and I managed to sort of follow one of these athletes around on the field and snag their QR code, what kind of information would that take me to?
Yeah, I mean, really up to them when they implemented the QR code. But I think for the most part, you was bring one of two places. Could bring you to their official bio page.
Mhm.
So the student athlete's bio page could bring them to their social content. Really, wherever they wanted to direct that, it could bring them. And um, to me, in a day when consumers can't get enough information and publishers can't give enough information, this makes a lot of sense of information that's easily accessible, because
Mhm.
there's only so much information you're going to get in a broadcast talking about each particular student athlete, their story, where they came from, the brands that they are aligned with. And so to be able to just point the camera, as you said, snap that QR code, go to the student athletes page, which then hopefully has all the information that the media, the fans, and the student athlete wants to get out there.
This was a really creative way, I think, to use QR codes. What are some other ways QR codes are being used around college athletics that you think have really been successful?
Yeah, I think the obvious one is menus, right? Because I think we all, I mean, unless you lived under a rock or you didn't go out to a restaurant in the last couple years. First of all, his menus are dirty and gross, and forget COVID. They're just disgusting. And so simple way, but even in a stadium, being able to just do that QR code and get a menu,
Mhm.
uh, whether it's for in-seat ordering or not. I think another one is you're seeing a lot of folks put QR codes on the back of seats. Right, Digital
Mhm.
Seat is a company out there that does that. Uh, and again, those QR codes could really bring you anywhere. They could bring you into the program, a game day program. They could bring you into the schedule, into a roster to buy tickets. All of the above, I think, is great. I think you're beginning to see QR codes on video boards, which makes a lot of sense. And those could be for enter to wins or trivia. And again, rather than saying open up the official app and click on the trivia button, it's just, hey, scan this QR code. You don't have to worry about what the app is called. If you have it downloaded, we're going to bring you right there. Right, really make it very simple for the fan to begin interacting. And I think the last one is loyalty, where throughout the stadium or even outside of the stadium, within a geographic region, you can have fans interacting with brands. That helps with the loyalty portion within college athletic strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's so many ways to use them. And I don't know if any technology benefited as much from the pandemic as the QR code did, because it does seem to have made a resurgence all over the place, including in college athletics. I'm curious from a technology standpoint, is there anything else that comes to mind that over the last couple of years has been useful in college athletics at live events and that sort of thing?
That's a great question. When I look at a QR code, and really, if we were to dumb down the technology, it's just an auto identifier, right? And no different that well, different but same family as barcodes,
Hmm.
right? Same family as RFID tags, and so I'm answering your question in a roundabout way by saying if you look at all three of those in a continuum, barcodes are dumb, hard, right? We've all been to the grocery stores and everywhere else where you're trying to do self checkout, and you kind of got to have that line of sight. And if it's dirty, forget about it. Um, and it can't store a lot of information, right? That QR code is right in the middle where it can store quite a bit of information. It can be read both horizontally and vertically, which makes scanning a heck of a lot easier, even if it's dirty. And adds tremendous value at a very low cost, similar to a barcode, very low cost to implement. Uh, I think if I was to look at what that next step is, it's moving into that RFID or some technology, perhaps around augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality that may not even be there today.
Hmm.
But RFID does cost to implement, but has much greater value. And so when you look at what the NFL has done with with NFL Next Gen Stats, which is just really having those RFID tags in the shoulder pads and in the balls, and then the amount of data that you can get from that and the amount of interaction you can and value you can supply to fans is really limitless. You have a company like Shot Tracker that's doing that in college athletics
Hmm.
with that RFID tag inside the basketballs, and again tags on the players. So your question was, are there other technologies around COVID that have been as interesting? Uh, I think aside from the QR code, certainly just what fans are doing with their apps has probably accelerated faster, but at a higher cost. Meaning, I think companies, whether it be Venue Next or one of these that is really that has made mobile ordering just standard, right?
Hmm.
And again, whether it's in-seat ordering or more mobile ordering, I think that technology, mobile ticketing, same thing. I mean, Ticketmaster, Paciolan, uh, you can go back to either of those companies pre-pandemic. Such a small number were doing mobile ticketing, and today you have to do mobile ticketing.
Right.
You wouldn't think of not doing it. And I think that's where we're going to end up with mobile ordering as well, because anything that's attached to this phone is going to have high adoption or quick adoption. because I mean, all pun intended, this is our ticket to everything.
Yeah.
And so if it can be our ticket to the game and then our way to order merch, food, beverage, have experiences, and be able to scan something, whether it's on a video board, in a
Mhm.
concourse, or on a player, I think that that has tremendous value at a low cost. Again, once we start getting into that continuum and we can start investing in the RFID or beacon technology. To me, that's kind of that next step. They all fit within the same family, but a
Yeah.
little bit more of an investment.
And you guys, really the core and heart of what you do is around websites and apps that many athletic departments now use. Is there anything new or innovative happening in that space or that we should keep our eyes on?
Yeah, I mean, I joke. I don't know what's moving faster right now, college sports or technology. Right, for decades, college sports, as the business didn't really change, didn't evolve so much. Technology's constantly evolved, and so we've always had our work cut out for us, keeping up with the latest and greatest technology. Um, and now I think when you look at college sports moving at the same speed of technology, whether it be around NIL or NFTs, or student athletes who can transfer with the transfer rules, or sports wagering, which I get it isn't legalized today, but I think we're all kidding ourselves if we think it won't be legalized in the future, or maybe even the near future. So, are there things that Sidearm Sports is looking at or working with? What aren't we? I think when we look at NIL, and it's all about how we can help elevate the brand of the student athlete, and every student athlete does have that brand, and I think this is really important. If you Google any student athlete, 99% of their time, their official athletic roster profile is going to come up number one, ahead of anything from ESPN, ahead of anything from Barstool or Bleacher or Yahoo Sports. And so we at Sidearm are thinking, we are reimagining what a roster page will look like in 2022 and beyond, because I don't think a roster page should look how it has for decades. Meaning, for decades, it's been, here's a student athlete's name and their height and their position and their hometown and their photo and their bio. And that's great. That's all important information. But does that help elevate the student athlete's brand? And in my mind, if Google and Bing, or those search engines, are the number one feeder to get to a student athlete's profile, then it's our job at Sidearm to elevate that profile based upon what's happening in 2022, based upon what's happening in NIL. So that's a big initiative of ours. I think, as a precursor to sports wagering, we're looking at first party data, not just with sports wagering, but even beyond, with the cookie apocalypse, real word, cookie apocalypse. But the idea that in January of 23, if Google continues the path they're going, the third party cookies will disappear. That is going to vastly change the way publishers interact with consumers. So Sidearm's on the forefront of that, making sure that our schools, who are really the publishers of content, are interacting with their fans in a way where we can gather as much first party data as we can, which is going to serve those schools both from a ticketing, from a sponsorship, from a fundraising capacity. So I think that's really important. And then I think content strategy is shifting, right? So and I think this is both Sidearm as well as our parent organization Learfield is really helping schools look at, what does a content strategy mean in 2022,
Mhm.
and how has that been different than the last decade? And it's greatly different, vastly different. Um, I think that for years, content strategy was putting out press releases, certainly putting out the rosters, the schedules, and all that information. And today, it's how can we be storytellers? And you have thousands of student athletes, and every one of those student athletes has a story. Every coach has a story. How do we package that up and tell that story? Because that content can be, maybe not as valuable as a live event, but certainly valuable in terms of something that nobody else has.
Okay, so much to unpack there. I want to go back to NIL for a second because anyone who knows me knows my whole world revolves around NIL these days. And so when you were talking about the ways in which player bios on the website might need to evolve in the future, there may not be an answer to this question yet, but I'm wondering, is there anyone you've seen who is doing something a little different to help their student athletes from a branding perspective on those bio pages?
Yeah. So I short answer is no. No one's doing it to any level where I think it needs to head.
Okay,
Uh,
so I
and
haven't missed anything.
you haven't missed anything. And by the way, I think this is a very different challenge in college than it is in professionals. And so when you look at all of us doing this in college, no, you haven't missed anything. I think everyone's taken baby steps, which is all right. Well, the roster page needs to include links to their social,
Hmm.
and that might have been step one. But now what about, linking to their brand marketplaces? What about if they're doing, if they have something with open doors? And how do we open up that opportunity? Because again, I'm going to go back. When somebody Googles that student athlete, it's not
Yeah.
going to bring them to open doors. It's going to bring them to their official bio. And so maybe it's not just a link, maybe it's full integration to show here are the opportunities or the deals that student athletes have worked with, or here's how to interact with a student athlete, again through open doors as an example, if there's interest from a brand. So I think schools, from what we're hearing, want to elevate their student athletes.
Hmm.
There are companies that, such as open doors, that are doing that. What our job is as the technology provider of the official athletic sites, is how to merge those two worlds together. And I
Right.
think we can. I think we can. And again, if that student athlete has a story, and brands are always looking to connect based on stories, we need to know more than their height, their weight, their hometown,
Yeah.
right? We need to know their story so we can help them make those connections.
Yeah, and I know it gets difficult for athletic administrators because we've got this, patchwork of rules and laws across the country, and particularly in some states, athletic departments are, being very conservative about how they're involved with NIL. But as you were talking about, the bio being that first thing that comes up on Google and ways that you could integrate a student athlete's personal branding, my TA in the NIL class that I teach at University of Florida is Leah Clapper, the gymnast, and she created a board game. And as you were talking, I was thinking, how cool would that be if in her bio it
Yes.
had a link to buy the board game?
Yes.
But I know here in Florida, institutional involvement's a really touchy topic. So I understand not every athletic department could like make that leap right now anyway. But it'll certainly be interesting to see how that develops over time and whether we do see their own merchandise and links in their bio like that.
Look, you just mentioned there's so much complexity to it, and I don't pretend that there's not. And there's complexity in official sponsors for the school, and could those conflict with what a student athlete is doing? But take away the complexities. There's also just so much opportunity, and there's smart people, and I think we put our heads together. And if the end goal is how do we promote that student athlete, their brand, without damaging the school or the athletic brand, let's go find a way to do that. And so in your example, if somebody's building or endorsing a board game or whatever it may be, let us put our heads together to figure out how we can promote that. Or if it's an NFT, right? Maybe it's an NFT, which in that case everybody wins, right? Because if it's an NFT and it's using the school's IP and it's potentially using a student athlete, well, now the athletic department and the school are going to win, because they're going to get some royalties off that. The student athlete's going to win as well. So to me, there's so many win-win opportunities. We've just got to find those and be intentional about how we push that out.
Well, I have a feeling you guys are going to be busy over the next year, 5 years, 10 years as this continues to
Yes.
evolve. And I think those websites will really start to change and we'll see those those bios changing and also just the student athletes brand and the athletic brand, merging in different ways and being able to work together. And again, it's difficult right now because of sort of the patchwork of rules and laws that we have. But I think that's going to change, and we're going to see institutions more easily able to work with their student athletes, both to promote the student athlete brands and their own, university and athletic department brands. So you guys have your work cut out for you, I think.
We sure do. But look, change is exciting. Change is fun, and like I said, it's now we got the double whammy with or double opportunity with technology changing so fast, and as well as everything around college athletics and legislation. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Jeff, thank you so much for stopping in and teaching us more about this. We'll all be on the lookout as things evolve. Appreciate you taking some time with us.
Thanks, Kristi. Really appreciate you having me.